St Kilda had one of perhaps the most exciting draft hauls, picking up a number of sliders within their 4 picks in the national draft. Starting at the top, they managed to grab Matthias Phillips out of Woodville West Torrens Eagles. Michael, we know he could have gone as early as the top 5, but he slid to the Saints at 10, and what do you reckon he's going to offer to that team?
A bit of excitement. He covers the ground really well as a dual athlete of sorts, having come from that basketball background, which is a bit of a cliche by now, but means he's really good aerially, but can also fare well below his knees. Takes marks, but then can win the ball in midfield as well. Can kick goals. As a guy who's played forward for a lot of his junior career, so a lot of upside about him, as you mentioned. Was in the frame for pick 5 with Essendon, but ended up falling to pick 10. And I think the Saints are really keen to call out his name come that time.
Yeah, and skipping to their 4th selection for a moment at 44, Isaac Keeler, who is another player out of South Australia, rated quite a bit higher at the start of the year, and he's obviously slid down, but for that kind of value, that's a really good selection there.
Absolutely it is. He's a player who I had in my top 25 for much of the year, and I think as a ruck forward, there's few more naturally talented and athletic types, at least in this year's draft, and probably has a bit of work rate and endurance to work on down the line, but hopefully Ross the Boss can get the best out of him. And at pick 44, obviously, Adelaide fans would be wondering why they didn't at least nominate him. Of course, he was an NGA there. A bit of a blunder for the Crows, but that's St Kilda's gain for sure.
Yeah, and we talk about athletic key position players. One player who dominated the combine was James Van Es out of the GWV Rebels. Now, he's obviously one who is a bit more ready-made and built for senior footy. When do you sort of see him coming in?
I mean, if you can get in during his first year, that's a great result for him. As a second rounder, it's not a guarantee, but definitely has the build, as you mentioned, that physicality and the prowess as a one-on-one defender, to match it against some of the key forwards at AFL level. A really handy pick and one that suits their needs too.
Then 4 selections later at 35, they picked up Ollie Hoden, who, again, was touted to be as high as that first-round pick, or at least in the 20s. So to slide down to 35, they've been able to grab another bargain there.
Yeah, I mean, you look at value with St Kilda's haul, I think overall they'd be really happy with the range that they got each player. So from Phillips getting down to 10, Isaac Keeler at 44 and Hoden as well at pick 35. It's a bit of a steal. You had clubs in for him probably within that 25 to 30 range and may have been touted a little higher, but as an explosive midfielder forward with his athleticism, his ability overhead, his clean work at stoppages, he's one that could really develop quite nicely for a guy who was picked up at 35.
And then to wrap up the haul in the rookie draft, they picked up an NGA, Angus McLennan, out of Sandringham Dragons, who had a good finish to the year for the Dragons.
Yeah, finished with a flourish, and he was quite highly touted. Coming into his top age season, he's had his injury setbacks throughout his time at the Sandringham Dragons, but as an NGA, again, as a free hit, you'd think that he's just a handy selection. I mean, he fares well overhead as a medium type. He played a really key role in Sandringham's defence as they took out that NAB League premiership. So, why not? We say that a lot with the draftees late on in the order, and if he gets to play senior footy, that's a big bonus.